We have planned out, a couple of weeks of session this time around. We will look at how it is, how we do go about cybersecurity. We have a traditional cycle. We talk about, say, first day is basically about security awareness. What are the terms? What is the pattern? What is the goal that is going? What is the market that is happening out there? Right? We look at it. So it is a very good place to start to understand what's happening in, what is cybersecurity. A lot of people have a lot of misconception because you every time you go a different place, they talk about different stuffs. And cybersecurity is vast as the IT industry itself, right? It will also cover as physical security also. Someone standing, a watchman standing, it also comes under cybersecurity, right? So everything is going to be part of cybersecurity. So it's quite vast. We'll talk about the ones which will make difference in your career and what is that you're looking at, right? So when you go for an interview, the lot of times which I faced during my early stages of it is because even if you're going for a master's in MTech and MS in cybersecurity, uh, they are also not clear because the industry is still developing. They don't know what is to be taught and things like that. And there's too many things out there, too much information out there. When I started, there was lack of information. Now it's too much information, right? Everyone is trying to sell you a course. Everyone is trying to tell what is happening out there. This is, and every YouTube will tell you have to know this 5 commands or 20 commands for you to be good in cybersecurity. That is not the case, right? Uh, One of the main goals for me to get into, I've been always loved to teach, and I've been a professor before in a university, taught masters kids how to do and worked with good college and good projects, right? And national level competitions have been shortlisted in my teams, have been shortlisted, not me, which have guided out there. One of the reasons why for me to get back or do this part of training and things like that is that in my previous organization, I was based out of Chennai out there at that time. It's a southern city in India, right? We had two openings for two penetration testers out there, and I interviewed around 973 people out there for just two roles. Uh, we could not shortlist more than 20 people. Out of the 20 people, 18 people could not join. Actually, 20 people did not join, right? Two of the things we took if because they got out bid from us, right? Someone bid for them much more higher package for them, so they told we are not coming in, and things like that used to happen. Finally, we decided that we'll take a fresher, we'll train them for 6 months and see how it will go because we wasted 6 months interviewing 973 candidates out there for that. It was not the reason that all of the 953 people who did not get selected were not intelligent or they were dumb or things like that. The problem was they did not know what to do. They are telling this is what my knowledge is. This is what they are. These are people who have done certified ethical hacking. They've done security plus, then OSCP, and they are more focused on infrastructure security when industry is focused more on web application security and things like that. Which is something. So there is a lot of issue, right? There's a lot of gap in the knowledge, and they don't know what is should be learned and what should be there in what pattern because even if you open Udemy or any other place, there's too much information. You don't know what to do, right? And we need to have an understanding, get the students, it is including professionals as well, right? Especially the professionals. Uh, what happens is they have a limited time. Students have go to college, they don't have else they can spend 3 times more time a professional can spend on studying this particular topic. So there's a lot of limitation to a professional method. So it is important to understand coming from an industry, see, this is what we're looking at. There's a lot more knowledge out there, but this is what we're looking at. For instance, a lot of people tell Active Directory is what is important and things from a penetration testing perspective, but that is not. That is also important. There's, red teaming where you need to know about those things. But 90% of the jobs are not for red teaming. It's predominantly for web application security. There's entirely different structure. Very little noise about it because a lot less people talk about it. So that was one of the motivations for me to get into cybersecurity training. And a lot of times it is basically, you know, a lot of people are moving, transitioning away from DevOps into cybersecurity, understanding what's happening out there. You know, it is try to guide them in the right direction, telling them what is that they are looking at. So that is, if you are able to achieve that, that is very much important, because if you believe time is important, try to get more in the right direction, right? So that is the goal. So, but most of the time, people will not understand what is cyber. What are the jargons that we are talking about, and what do you mean by threat and other things. So we'll talk about those things. We'll also talk about what is confidentiality, integrity, and availability, and we look at that, and then we'll go on. So in the next sessions, we'll be talking about something about penetration testing, infrastructure security, what is DevSecOps, other things we're going to look into that as well. Okay. But today we'll talk about basics of it. Once again, nothing. Are you able to see my screen? I think I've not shared my screen. Sorry. Can you see my screen, guys? So this is our expected timelines. So first week it's about cybersecurity awareness. Second week we talk about penetration testing and infrastructure. Third week we speak about DevSecOps, and fourth week we'll talk about cloud security. Right, predominantly what are the things that is required in a current scenario, and you will see in real time all of them actually merges into one nowadays. Right, a DevSecOps has become a bit more a generic term out there. So what is a cyber attack? Right? Before we could go about defense and things, let's try to understand what is a cyber attack. Cyber attack is the intentional effort to steal, expose, alter, disable, or destroy data, application, or other assets through unauthorized access to a network, computer, or a digital device. So, in a simple way, that we can tell is that there is a resource, right? The resource can be anything. It could be a data, it could be something physical or anything. We are using cyber as a device to do some harm, right? To steal it or to break it or to, delete it using networking computers and digital devices, and which is going to cause harm for that, right? For instance, someone accessing your mobile phone or someone accessing your Insta account and downloading an image of yours when it is telling you you're not supposed to download. That is also a cyber attack. At the same time, someone, let's say there's a dam, there's a huge water dam, that gates of the water dam is managed by a computer, and you hack into that computer and open the floodgates and causing it flood to in the basins of the dam and killing hundreds of people, right? Everything, both is a cyber attack. The intensity is different. That is what is there, right? It could have a huger impact. We'll look into those things out there, right? So we have seen a lot of breaches. A lot of organizations have been data has been lost, right? AT&T, they got hacked in 2019. That was recently disclosed about, they talk about 73 million customer information was stolen out there. 22 LinkedIn data breach, 700 million users, right? About 93% of all LinkedIn members, right? If you had your account in LinkedIn before 2021, there's a good chance your credentials are stolen. It's a good idea to change credentials for a LinkedIn account if you created to that before that. An attack and Microsoft, 30,000 organizations. It's not 20,000 people, 30,000 organization. Each organization could have thousands of users, or it could have two users also. But organization level, it was attacked out there. T-Mobile, 48 million users. Credit Equifax, 143 million American social numbers were exposed in 2017. This is actually telling is half of US population data is lost, social security number. And this is in huge, much more impact because this data can be used for identity theft as well, right? The impact is more higher out there. But this is going to happen quite often, right? This is going to happen quite often out there. But you don't see banking attack vectors out there, right? You don't see this particular bank got hacked and they lost. This is the amount of money. Do you see that money, right? Do you see that information? No. So because banks have an, they do get a special, uh, from the government, they don't have to disclose that information. Because if banks start to disclose, people will not be willing to put their money in the bank. So that is the reason they are exempted. But others, if they're hacked, they have to tell that they have been exposed to that. Okay, that is the. So in cybersecurity terms, there are three types of security term. One is an event, one is an incident, and one is a breach. Right? An event is something someone tried to bypass the security. Right? Someone tried to bypass the security, and there are millions of events per second. For instance, let's say someone tries to break into your Instagram account. What they will do? They'll put your user a name and enter a random password, right? That is an attempt on to break the password out there. Okay, you enter three times, the account gets locked. That is what happens. But there is no problem in that situation. There is no data loss. There is nothing has happened out there. The user is able to continue to use it, right? No data is lost. But still, someone tried to hack. That is an event out there. An incident is something. What happens is that here an event, a certain amount of security level is bypassed, right? But is not able to have access to the information. In a simple way, we can tell is that in any organization you take, the server is there, server is having a lot of security in place. But before that server, there will be a firewall in place to provide additional security. So here we're talking about the hacker is able to bypass the firewall, is able to break into the firewall, bypass the firewall, but he reached the server. But server is also having a security in place. He is not able to break that security. And they were able to identify the hacker and remove the hacker from the network and repass the firewall of that. Meaning here the data, there is some kind of a bypass that happened, but data is not lost. So that is what is an incident is going to be. And we don't usually consider events, right? But it is the incidents which are more important. The review is going to be done, research, what happened and how can we fix it. All those things are going to be taken care into that part, right? The final one is the breach. Whenever you see in the newspaper and things, these are all proper breaches where data is actually lost, right? Data is actually lost or modified or deleted or anything could happen with that, right? That is what a basic it is going to be there. The breach is going to happen out there. Fine. So, but what are the different types of attack that comes into play, right? Nowadays, we see very basic part is basic web application attack. The attack is are against a web application, and after the initial compromise, they do not have a large number of additional actions. It is get data and get out pattern. The main reason for this happening, and it is increased significantly nowadays, is because every organization you take, especially in the after the AI is also been introduced, we see even the smallest organization having some kind of an application out there that is being used out there. So that is going to take into consideration, and we have more applications that can be hacked. So it's there are going to be more versions into this part. Denial of service attacks are predominantly there is no data loss in denial of service, right? It is just making sure that you can't use the service, right? You can't use the service. For instance, let's say you might have locked your bike in some bike parking area, and the thief cannot take your bike out of it because this lock is very good. But what if someone comes and puts another lock on your bike and goes away? Right? Now you can't use your bike. You are a legitimate user out there. Your bike is parked. No one has stolen your bike out there. It is still there itself. But someone has put up a lock into that. Now you can't do anything. You can't use your bike. Right? That is denial of service, making service unavailable to the right set of people out there. So that is what denial service out there. Uh, System intrusion, these are complex attacks, leverage large malwares, hacking of active their object, including deploying ransomware. So system intrusion, when we talk about system here, I'm not talking about a server, I'm not talking about a laptop, I'm not talking about a mobile phone. A system intrusion is an getting inside an organization. Getting inside an organization, how do you get inside an organization, right? Predominantly, what is going to happen? I'm going to send a mail to, I'm going to check out their LinkedIn profile for an organization. Let's say there are 20 people out there. I collect their email IDs in some way. I send them phishing email, and one of them will click on it. They'll install ransomware in there or malware in their laptop. I gain access to their laptop, then I'll gain access to their organization network. So that is how it goes. They're all using official data, but still it can be broken out there. So that is how it will go. That is what system intrusion. But system intrusion is a bit more difficult because you need a bigger crew out there. I mean, more number of people required out there for getting executing it. That is there. And sometimes it is as simple as people in some social engineering why it is important, right? They will throw a pen drive in the organization basement, parking area or anything, and people will look at a pen drive, and there's always having that curiosity what is there in the pen drive, right? So and what they're going to do, they're going to take the pen drive and stick it in their system, right? And that is what is needed. Once you've done that, it's good, that's better, right? So one of the reasons why pen drives are not allowed on organization um, laptops and things, it is still a major issue, right? The pen drives can, the malware that is there, if you're a really good hacker, you know how to very good attack vector program malware, you can write as soon as you click whatever the security intrusion they're having, it will bypass it, right? So those are the things. But let's look at the attack patterns, right? In recent times, for you to understand what is required, why organizations are pushing towards DevSecOps, right? From a security point of view, right? From a point of view, when I'm looking in cybersecurity, right, a lot of organizations are going towards DevSecOps because there's a compliance requirement. If they're dealing with money, they have to provide certain amount of security, and they can only show that by doing DevSecOps and penetration testing. But why is that required? Why organization if they want to look at security, why is that they're looking at a certain things? For that, they have to know what is the type of attacks they're going to face, right? So for instance, let's say where you store your server, right? Where there is a building, where do you store your server? If you are in a very hot environment, let's say you're in Florida where it's hot all the time, then probably you'll keep your servers in the basement, not on the terrace, not on the top floor, because it is going to be hot, and it can, basements are much more cooler. It is easier to do that, right? But if you're in a very area where it is, it is going to tend to flood more, where it is going to rain more, you don't want to put your servers on the basement because that is the one that is going to be flooded first, right? So based on that, you take a decision what should be done, right? In a similar way, when you're talking about providing security for your organization, you have to understand what is the attack pattern of them, right? If you ask me, right, if you go a couple of years back, every organization will have their own email service which was managing it and things. And nowadays you see they're moving away from it, right? They're a very large organization, right? I've seen quite a few large organizations which make billions of dollars. They're having Gmail as their email provider, right? They're having their own domain name. You'll be logging into their own. For instance, you can have Gmail services at Karthick at Kalkey.com or something like that. You can have it. But they are not running their own mail server. They're going to Gmail or anything like that, right? The reason is the spam protection against malicious mails and things. Gmail is a lot more cheaper for them, right? If they have to do the same thing at an organization level for them, it's going to be very, very expensive for them, right? And they will miss out a lot of attacks because whereas Gmail and Outlook, they are much more designed. They have teams looking at every day for new attack patterns. It is updated every day and things like that. So it's going to be there. So that is important. So the service, what you're going to do, how we are going to look at security, look at changes at the attack pattern, right? So as you could see out there, as the time passes by, You see, denial of service is one of the services where the attack patterns have gone up significantly, right? Denial of service was the, because the main thing is in denial of service, it's one of the easier ones to do from an attack perspective, but you don't lose any data there. But the service is going to be, rendered unusable. That is there, and it has a cheaper cost as well. You don't need a really qualified. All those things are not required of it. System intrusion have gone up. It shows the people moving away, right? That's what I told. There's a significant, when an organization level hacks are happening, it has gone up significantly. Today 80% of all, 80, more than 80%, but the data what is there they're telling is 80% of the attacks are happening via your email only. Someone in your organization is clicking on an email which is they are not supposed to click on it, right? And it happens for everyone. And it happened for me as well, right? I have to, there wasn't, I got an email, play please pay your internet bill, and look, may look exactly. And the only reason I got to know that is not a authentic mail, that is a fake mail, that is a spam mail, it's because just a month back I had cancelled that particular internet service provider. And it even does it, So you will see every month the bill is generated for the internet, and you'll have a grace period of 10 days probably. By 10th you have to pay, and the mail lands exactly on 9th, right? So most of them will be paying at the end of the, last day they're going to pay up there. If they'll do it, they'll click on, they'll send money out of it. That happens a lot, right? So that is, so email security is very much important. So it is also going to see, that is why we're spending more money on that part, right? So basic web application, it has gone down significantly in recent times compared to 2021, 2022. It was much more higher. It has gone down in 23. I don't have any newer data here, but we'll get to that part. It will be much more lower now. The main reason here is, the reason why it has gone down is there's something called as a web application firewall that people are starting using out there. When they are having the cloud service, it is an add-on service that is there, but it brings down the attack surface significantly. So that is why we are seeing out there. Right? Social engineering is remain same. Social engineering basically, you know, um, you're trying to get information about an organization, about the people they're trying, then they're focusing on it. Your LinkedIn, careers, and things and all, they're looking at the impact of social engineering varies, right? Something, it depends on where it is there. But for instance, let's say someone will come into the organization telling that they are service providers for the servers and they're here for the maintenance, right? And we did for one of the banks, and they took our guys inside the server room and gave them the access to it as well, right? And that guy called up, that is a legitimate red teaming activity. There's a lot of things we had to do to make it look legitimate, which, you know then we called up the man, CISO for the bank, tell that we are in the server room and we have access to the server, physical access to the server, right? So that those are things will happen out there in real time. So in that is a red teaming activity, but people will do it, right? Amount of information disclosed by an employee in a cafeteria or in a pub, or it's very high. So those are things that we look into that. Lost and stolen assets and things that is getting disclosed. People have, the basically your laptops are getting stolen for that and things like that, and people are losing mobile phones. And it is gone up recently significant time because organization have started giving organization mobile phones to the users for that, and that mobile is getting stolen. So previously there was no mobile, so no stolen devices. So it was less. Now it's gone because more are getting out there, right? So there is a particular reason why organization give iPhones to their employees. it is not because they want to make their employees look cool or employee wants to be look cool out there. It is just that Apple provides a better security for the data on the device than any other Android device, right? You usually see there are two device types that is going to be there. Samsung, the higher end one, higher end devices, which are same price range as iPhones. That is how it's going to work, right? So this is the pattern of breaches. So this is the incidents where we are seeing what type of incident someone is trying to break in anything, but where the data is lost, right? Where the data is lost, the maximum number of data is lost in system intrusion, right? Where they're able to completely compromise an organization out there, right? Second is basic web application, and finally the social engineering there that has been led to that. System intrusion is very real out there. People, we saw a particular organization lost their data because we went into that, right? He was tricked into telling that there is a particular, there was a festive, or I think during Christmas time, the organization has set up an gift voucher for Amazon. Please log into the portal using your organization username and password to gain your voucher. As simple as that. Without cross checking with the team or anything, that person entered their username and password and and that information was taken out, right? And that was their email ID was used to propagate more malware into the organization. That led to an admin clicking on that particular mail link. His system got compromised, meaning his system got compromised, their AWS network got compromised with that, right? So that is how it goes. That is how it goes. So, so basic web application we see that is there. That is do data is there. It's quite compromised and things. It there it changes, right? Basic web application authentication and authorization is there. Bypassing the authentication happens a lot more, but we don't see number of data, because if you have spent good amount of time segmenting your data in a way it cannot be breached, even if it is breached, right, it can be improved the process of that, right? So for instance, let's say when you're traveling somewhere, you would probably distribute the money in 3 to 4 different bags, right? Not keep entire money in one single pocket and everything out there. Because the reason is, let's say even if you get pickpocketed or your data money is stolen from one of the places, there's still three other bags that is having your money, so you're not completely out of money, right? Putting everything into single place, meaning that single point of failure is that if you lose, you lose everything out there. So the data in we use the same logic in cybersecurity, try to increase the security and things, and try to distribute the data so that entire data is not lost. Okay. So we're talking about what is cybersecurity, right? So we before we could talk about cybersecurity, we spoke about what is an attack vector, right? What is a vulnerability? What is a breach? What is an incident? What is an event, right? But let's try to understand what is cybersecurity is. So it is just a practice of protecting your digital data, digital resources. That is what is basically about, right? A lot of people think cybersecurity is basically about protecting your servers and things. Cybersecurity also deals with physical security. Not everyone deal with that. I don't deal with physical security, but it is important. The main reason is there are a lot of cases where people have walked into an organization, picked the server, and walked out of the door. That has happened in real time, right? So at that time we need to provide cyber security, some kind of a security out there. And forget about that. In a, you know, in one place, why there is always need to be a proper locks and everything. A service engineer came into play. He was told that there's a hard drive failure in the server. He went to the wrong server and pulled the hard drive out of it, right? That particular server was running multiple live websites, all of them went out. It took them 30 minutes to restore it back, right? So it's important. It is even the negligence could lead to, you know, outage of information out there. So there is need to be information. At that time, who is going to be there, right? Who is going to be held responsible for that? So unless until you have a log system enabled in that, that is going to be very, very difficult to manage, right? So, so we talk about breach, right? So what is breach, right? We talk about that. So when three of this, any one of them is compromised, right? Confidentiality, integrity, and availability is compromised. That is when we tell there is a breach of that, right? That is the thing. But what is confidentiality? What is integrity and availability? Confidentiality basically talks about some data is there, only a legitimate user should be able to see the data or read the data, right? If someone, let's say you're writing your own diary and your sister looks into that or your brother looks into your diary and read what you're reading out there, that is constitute as a loss of confidentiality, right? You, let's say you're having your marks card, only your college teachers, you and your professor are supposed to look into that. Someone is able to look into that. That is a loss of confidentiality, right? Again, let's there is a proprietary source code available out there. Only the developers are supposed to have access to that. Someone, an hacker, gain access and looks into your code. Again, that is a loss of confidentiality, right? Here, when you talk about confidentiality, we're talking about someone having able to see your data, right? But when it comes to modifying your data, what do you mean modify? Insert, delete, or completely remove all the data comes under modification, meaning you're transitioning the data from that state to another state. You may be adding data to that, you may be removing data from that, or you may be changing a data out there, right? Meaning someone is trying to remove, update the mobile phone in your banking details, right? And the OTP goes to their number now, or they delete your someone you has given as an a beneficiary for your account, you're removing that information. It could be anything, right? What if they delete your account entirely? You lose all your money out there. So that is integrity conflict, right? So someone is able to make modifications to your data, that we talk about integrity. And finally we talk about availability, right? Let's say you're supposed to transfer an amount, you cannot access your bank information. Why? Because the bank server is not reachable out there, right? And this happened, uh, if it is a cyber attack, it is called a denial of service attack, right? So I was, a couple of years back, I was stuck there was an issue with the car. I was stuck in place. I took it to the service center, and it's about 10 o'clock in the night. They finally fixed it, and I cannot make payment. The reason is card is not able to process because my bank on that particular day had set up for a service. They told no service data card transactions are not allowed for 60 minutes out there. For that entire 60 minutes, I could not make a transaction out there, right? And unfortunately, the people out there in the garage had to wait all the way till 11. But something like this has happened at an attack level. Someone voluntarily brought down the server of banks or services or other things. It is going to be a huge impact out there, right? Sometimes the financial losses can be very huge. A simple example you can consider here is, let's say I used to work for Amazon packaging when I was a student in UK. So they hire and train a whole set of people for 6 months so that they can see the peak is there for the November, December, and January, October, November, December predominantly, because a lot of people are buying stuffs at that time for Christmas, right? In that particular day, there will be one day where people will book so many products in Amazon, right? It will be more in a single day sale than some of the months in that particular year. That is how much it is going to be there. You are completely packed at that time, right? So I was packing around, it's a very large number. What if the server goes down on that particular day? Someone did a denial of service attack on an Amazon server, and now, and it is a millions of products, not millions of dollars. Millions of products is not booked on Amazon on that particular day. What people are going to do if they can't book their product on that Amazon in that particular point? they'll go to some other website and they'll book it there, right? Now, just denial of service is going to cost them billions of them, right? So it makes a huge difference. So availability is also a very, very important component on that. That is how it is done. So other thing we need to also consider is authentication and authorization. Authentication is who you are and authorization is what you are, right? Basically, your username and password is authentication. Uh, and authentication comes in three components. Something you know, something you have, or something you are, right? Something you know basically it's about username and password. Something you have is a token, right? It could be an access card, it could be some kind of a dongle, in some could be, OTP is also something you have, right? You don't know about it, you're getting it on your mobile, so it can be considered something you have. And finally, something you are, that is your biometric, right? Biometric is not safe as a lot of people will think, right? Let's say if you lose your password, you can change your password. But if your biometric data is stolen, you can't change it. You can't change your fingerprint. You can't change your face on that. So it is biometric is advised only when there is a requirement. Try to avoid storing your data out there. Okay. But what is authorization? Authentication is good, right? What is authorization? Authorization is, let's say, if you take your part, you're a student in a university. The ID card proves where you're part of the student. You're a student in that particular university. But you can't go and sit in any lecture of your choice. If you're a computer science student, you're only allowed to access the computer science department and its resources. You can't access that is other, let's say, biology or chemical or robotics or something like that. You cannot access that. That is authorization, right? You're only authorized to use that department out there. Same thing with the organization. A manager is having a different set of functionalities. A executive will have a different set of functionalities. If executive, if he is able to do managerial tasks without permission, then that is a breach of authorization. Okay. It is also called something called as a role-based access control. A role is assigned. Anyone who is a manager can do a lot more actions. Anyone who is an employee, there is a limitation to that. Right. So that hierarchy is always going to be maintained for that part. Right. So unauthorized access, admin page is there. Who can do, right? If there's a managed company, manager is able to do a particular admin activity. If a user is able to bypass a company user, or a hacker can bypass and do those actions of that. Right? Predominantly, when we talk about us, when we go in as a security auditors, we do hack and we don't have any kind of a set number of processes out there. There's a limit, there changes. The way you're pen testing, the applications is going to change based on the organization and what information is given by them. Okay. But now we're talking about, we spoke about what data is there. So what kind of a breach it is, right? What are the different types of breaches? We talk about confidentiality breach, we talk about integrity breach, we talk about data, availability breach. And we also saw about what kind of an access control that is going to be there, right? And we saw the hackers are going to be there to break this kind of an security that there, and it is the hackers who are trying to breach into the organization. So what is the reason behind breaching? What is the reason why hacker is motivated to hack, right? One of the main things what we see is financial gains. When they take the data, they can sell the data to someone for better money, or they're copying or hacking company to get the proprietary information and things, and they're getting money for that process, right? And that is why there's going to be used out there. Second is activist, meaning there's some kind of an they want to provide some kind of an, for instance, a lot of, if you see a lot of places, unless until there's a necessity, oil companies will not have their logos outside organization, their buildings, wherever that is there. You'll never know they existed out there unless until you go and you're working inside that. The main reason is the environment activist will try to vandalize the office. They, whenever there is an issue or anything, they'll come and make problem for that. Similarly, same thing happens for their online presence as well. Activists are hackers who try to gain access to them and then try to compromise the organization websites or resources, not for any financial gain, but there's sign of protest for that, right? So during Ukraine and Russia war, what is happening? The hackers on one side are trying to hack the services on the other side. That is what is going to be there, right? And thirdly is espionage. A lot of organization try to know what is happening, their competitors, what product they are working on, what is the source code, and things further that is going to be there. And there's also personal revenge, right? People who are getting, they had a bad, they ended their relationship or they want to do something at a personal level. They hack their mobiles, they try to store data, capture videos and things, right? Or capture photos, download photos, sensitive information. Think about, you take your mobile everywhere, you take your laptop everywhere, someone gain access to your laptop or your mobile phone camera, and what are the things they can record, right? That is there. So that is also one of the reasons we see, you know pen testing is there. But here the most complicated one is going to be the national security, right? So these are the set of people who are the best hackers in the world, whom you'll never know about what they are and what they're doing to go out there, I think, right? And we got to know a lot of this information when this snowdown data came out, right? We never knew, yes, the hacker community always knew what's happening out there, but general public did not know about it. They are the best. They think about, today everything is going to be computerized. Your water, your electricity, your internet, and what are the other services, normal day to day, that is going to be there, right? Your nuclear power plants, your water dams, and other things that are there, that all those things are there. So if you're in war with another country, you can hack into their system and cause havoc. You can take entire cities down and things like that, shutting down the entire electricity grid and things. All those things are going to be there. So it is one of the most dangerous, or things perspective. But there's, every country will have their own set of pen testing, security, hacker teams and things that work on a different level. So who are these bad actors, right? Who are these basic individuals, organized crime, and nation states, right? Individuals nowadays is not that capable because the security is much more complex. You need to be a bit more competent, and you don't find that, right? So nation states will have their own set of teams. Don't have any budget as of such. They can have supercomputers at their disposable and things like that. The one which it is of more, you know impactful, and what we see, right, nation states is, from a general public point of view, they are not going to be much, right? 99% of the time it's not going to affect. Only there is happening at a different place. But it is the organized crime that is coming into play, right? It is, you don't see nowadays a single individual who hacked into large organization, he was able to do it and things like that. That is not happening out there. The mafia or the organized crime is also getting into cybersecurity, where they will have their own set of hackers, each specialized in a very particular activity. There's a web application expert, there's a malware expert, there's an infrastructure expert, and everything. They work as a team, right? And I try to gain access into organizations, try to steal money and things like that. When we talk about spams, when we talk about, a lot of time we see about call centers doing, faking it. These are all teams that are there, and there, someone who's managing is from an organized crime itself. That's very, so that's the, these are the actors that are we are going to see. Individuals are far less nowadays, right? So, holistic cybersecurity solution. Unfortunately, for cybersecurity, there's no one solution for that. Right? There's no one solution for that. it has kept on evolving, and we need to have multi-level because multi-attack can happen from any kind of a place out there. So it we need to understand a lot of cybersecurity tool. There's a process involved, people involved, business continuity, disaster recovery solutions is there, and finally assessments also going to be relevant out here. Okay. So what is the history of cybersecurity threats for this, right? So before we know what is that we have to do at an organization level, what is it is. Initially what happened was people used to steal laptops, steal servers, and then run the server at their own place and try to gain access to that part. Then it was denial of service. They tried to start, sending packets and things and all that is there. Then email attacks got more important out there, right? People start getting a lot of mails and things that before spam, that is when the spam folders got introduced, like because we don't ever know which email is right or wrong, right? How one of the ways they Google identifies if there is a spam attack or anything, if because if it is coming, hacker will use a single server for doing a lot of their spam mails. So they will know based on that, they'll tell, okay, this particular server is sending out about 1,000 emails in the last 1 hour. Probably it is an issue out there. And we faced it. We also see when we are trying to run our, in sometimes or advertisement for the company, that person sales team would have sent 100 mails in an hour short span of time in a 5-10 minutes gap. So our mails would have been ended up spam for our customers. They'll ask, we have not received, then they check spam, it is there, because that is the case, right? The later email attacks changed into malware attacks, and then botnet attacks came into play, social attacks. Now we are seeing AI assisted attacks, and this is more dangerous out there, right? All the previous attacks, what is required there is a talented, knowledgeable hacker that needs to know what he is doing out there. It was not everyone's cup of game to pen test or hack, right? Even today it is not, right? If you're a really good hacker on day one, there are good chances you'll get, very good package. I think US we have seen about 100 $120,000 for a fresher that has been given if you are a good pen tester out there, right? So that is how the task, it's not easier. And I've seen in my career a lot of high school dropouts are good quality pen testers. They earn really good out there, right? They're wired differently, right? So but AI assisted attacks takes that out. So anyone who knows how to use an AI will take care of that thinking part for them, and it will do it for that. So we are seeing that happening a lot, right? The the individuals are able to do more number of attacks in a short span of time because AI is helping in that process, right? So what are the solutions that has been for there for that? For the logs, there has been fire, physical security, there has been logs, denial of service prevention, firewall is there. For malwares, it is antivirus came into play, right? Pen testing also provided for any kind of an, new kind of an attack. All those things come into play, right? SATs are there, and SOC finally, EDR, MDR, endpoint detection and response, and manage detection response. So checking out what attack is happening on the server end and things and all. These are the security solutions that are coming into play. We implement this one way or the other, right? It may be something as simple as that. Nowadays firewall does a lot more actions in a small organization. If an antivirus in your system will act as a firewall as well, right? In your laptop antivirus, what you do, it will act as a firewall for your system as well. All those things it will do. Okay. So security operations centers are also there, looking at endpoints, looking at data from all the devices. Whenever you do put up a pen drive in your laptop, company laptop, a alert is sent to the SOC team, security operations center team, that particular user logged into, entered, connected a pen drive into that, right? It is one of the basic actions it will be even do better. Even if let's say you're having a server and your administrator ran a sudo command or a root level command, a alert is generated at the SOC team telling that they have to justify. If I'm doing a restart, server is restarted, there should be a justification for that. Otherwise it is a breach alert out there directly, right? Those are the things that comes into play. So these solutions are there to prevent for that. It is not, and we have to, it is a constant process. Someone asks me what is cyber security, I just tell it is like shaving your beard every day, right? You shave, then it's not that again you have to shave tomorrow. So it is an ongoing process for that. It is never going to stop, right? Even if the application is development is over, security work is never over. Okay. So gaining access predominantly, where do you get that? Credentials. So people are able to bypass username and password credentials. Solution is multi-factor authentication. It is multi-factor authentication prevents a lot, right? Think about someone can get lucky entering your username and password your banking data, or let's say your laptop is compromised and someone is giving a keylogger in, they know what keys you're typing out there, you enter your username and password, that both is sent to the hacker because your laptop is compromised, but you're getting an SMS on your mobile phone, right? So even if they have their username and password, still they can't com- compromise. But if your mobile phone is compromised, then it's difficult, right? It has happened. Phishing attacks are there. You're getting security awareness training and email filters are there. Security awareness training means telling the employees, giving them in security training that you should not click on random links. These are the things we don't do, right? That is security awareness training. Email filters will check for that any vulnerability. So that is one of the reasons why we go with Gmail or Outlook or any other third-party email providers that we no longer are important for that. Exploits, right? So there are, these are system patches that you need to update. Basically, you have to update all the services, check for any vulnerabilities. Then, as soon as there's a vulnerability, fix those. That is patching that part. Right? Updating system components is where we can talk about in this way. Right? So it is, small and medium-sized business do not believe. The reason there's a huge push in cybersecurity these days is all that this time small and medium-sized businesses think, cybersecurity is not required. Who will hack them? Their data is not enough, and things like that, right? But that is changed significantly, right? Official number data money lost in 2022 is 10.3 billion. It is going to be way more than that, right? The people don't know about all those things that is going to be there, and 95% of the time people do it for financial gains, right? So security, we talk about stages of cybersecurity in 5 stages out there. What are the basic things that you have to do in a small? So stage one is something very basic you're going to do in an organization: administrative access, email security, firewall and security services, password managers, data backup and recovery, endpoint protection, multi-factor authentication, and wireless security, right? Wireless security is also important, right? We, let's say if you're working in a co-working space, the office next to your office is also going to have access to your Wi-Fi. So they can sit down, they'll have all the time to break into your Wi-Fi, right? So you have to make sure password setting and where you're managing your wireless is important. There are cases where people have sat in the parking lot and hacked that company out there because the wireless is available out there. So those are the things that very basic important. You have to have an email security. Your all your company laptop and devices are protected, meaning antivirus, disk encryption is enabled, and making sure that the screen protection. If you're idle for 1 minute, the screen should automatically lock, and you should enter password to open that. All those things are important. That's a very basic thing that is need to be there, right? Second part is policy and awareness, right? Cybersecurity awareness with roadmap, assessment with roadmap, doing pen testing, and after doing pen testing, understand what is lacking, then come up with policies, right? Email phishing exercises, remote worker education, how the remote workers need to be work and how they are supposed to do, security awareness training and cultures and awareness, right? uh, Recently what happened was we were working for some organization, we were doing security awareness training out there. So we told, let's before doing the security awareness training, let's do some actual data. So what we did was I went to the organization and stood outside, and someone asked, "Are you waiting for someone?" I told some person's name which I'm supposed to meet out there. And they told, "Okay, he's there in the office. I think he's busy, not able to take." They took their card out, swiped it, and they let me inside out there. Right? I went inside. After I went out there and sat next to someone, I told, I'm waiting, I'm joining today. I'm waiting for someone to come and do that. In the meantime, can I have access to the password? Wi-Fi access. They gave me the access to their company internal password, and I opened their network. Right? I did a simple scan, got all the devices IP. Right? This is then we did the security awareness training out there. This is what you're not supposed to be doing out there. Right? Even if you know someone, you should not allow them unless until you are responsible for that. If you go to a larger organization, let's say if you're going for IBM or anything, even if you're an employee, if you forget your access card, your manager is supposed to come down, sign a place that this you are the manager is responsible for his actions, and then take him out inside. That is how important it is there. You cannot take it in for granted. Think about it for someone else, right? Someone else, you would have got inside the organization, looked for any laptop where the screen was open, it was not locked, could have just carried that laptop and got in, could have done anything out there, right? It'll hardly take 10 minutes, sorry, 10 seconds for anyone. If your laptop is open, if you know what you're doing, it takes 10 seconds to infect a laptop if you know what you're doing out there, right? So that is important, right? So next is asset management. Asset management here, what is going to be is that we are going to look at all the services there in an organization. What servers are there? How many servers are there? How many devices are there? How many laptops? How many mobile phone? Then how we are going to secure them, right? What configuration checks are there? We have to look into that component of that. That is how it is going to do, right? And fourth stage that is going to be there is IR planning, IR training, and IR testing, means incidents response. If you get breached, right? If you get breached, what are the set of actions you're supposed to do, right? How we are going to do that? That planning has to happen well before that. The training has to happen well before that, and there should be a mock drills as well. What should happen when there is an incident? That drill is going to take place. For instance, let's say our server crashed. So we need to have a backup plan for that. So we need to run that backup plan as well. We need to train the people for that backup plan as well, right? And an engineer who is developing, who's running servers and things will know, but will he know how to do a backup, how to do a forensic analysis? All those things will not be there. So we need to have some kind of a incident response training for that as well. And that should be there, right? And this is what happens in predominantly small and medium-sized businesses. The security monitoring or the stage 5 is where it is going to be a bit less in a small and medium-sized because it's going to be expensive, right? Number of devices and threat hunting and things like that will maybe be difficult out there. In some cases, it will be mandatory by the government rule. If you're storing certain amount of data on site, you need to have a SOC place out there. Nowadays, SOC services have gone down, meaning the cost wise, you can have some way of looking at things in different. That's important. So that is how we provide security out here. That is how we will be looking at, right? And these are all different fields altogether, right? Monitoring is a completely different thing. They don't deal with, they don't know an attack or anything. They will have a single large monitor. Whenever there is an incident, that alert shows up, they have to verify whether that alert is a real alert or a false positive. If it is real, then intimate the right set of people out there. That is entirely different. They don't know how to hack. They know how to check if an attack is happened or not. They are not, it's usually the SOC teams are easier to get in. They are much more, not much difficulty out there. In terms of security, packages or salaries, SOC teams are also a bit paid less because they don't They do a very important task, but it is not difficult, you know. So they get less package for that. And the other things based on how complex you're doing out there, that's going to be there, right? But why is that company struggle with cybersecurity, right? So business priorities. If you want to, let's say you have a certain budget for the organization. Let's say they're having about $100. They have to decide where they're going to put that $100, right? Are they going to put up in $50 in cybersecurity only? They will not do it until they get breached, right? Once they get breached, there is no budget for that. Unfortunately, they don't do it before that. Unfortunately, right? And we have seen it. We have seen this. I've seen it in real time. So we'll be telling them this pen testing is required for your organization. Know, don't postpone it. Have it much more often and things. They'll tell no, we have security in place and things, and they get breached. The next day, they want everything to be done, right? And they are ready to for the up price is also fine at that time. Right? And until that time, it was heavy, and all of a sudden, the price is cheap for them, right? The second part is managing security at scale. So, what do you mean by scale? So, let's say you're a startup, you started with just two people and you have security in place for that and everything. Then it moved on to 25 people. Then again, you know do it. Then all of a sudden, there's a sudden increase in sales or thing, and organization grew rapidly. Yes, someone is having a question. So security scaling is basically about, so suddenly we move from 25 employees to 250 people, right? So how do you scale security? The more devices would have come in and things, it becomes difficult to manage sudden increase in the network that is there. And lack of knowledge. A lot of people don't know what they're doing out there. Uh, Even in pen testing, right? People who are good in pen testing, ethical hacking, they don't know. They know how to break, right? If you take them and put them into a operations team and tell them provide security to the servers, they'll tell I don't know, I can't do it. Right? They know how to break it, but they don't know how to provide. So it's like, you know, the gangster breaking legs, right? But he will not know how to do those things, right? Do the doctor actions of that. That's what. And other is targeted attacks. You know, someone want to take in. You know, they want. It becomes very difficult, right? Nowadays, we are seeing a lot of times do get certain mails from a lot of people telling that we ran we we saw the organization got a sudden increase in security incidents report from our firewall and other things we did not understand. But after a few days after, someone sent us a mail that I did a preliminary check on your network. You're having certain vulnerabilities, right? And that's not vulnerabilities. For that person, he randomly ran a scanner, but that is also targeted attack, right? It did not go through, but he ran a scanner and is expecting money for that. You know, so that is also possible, right? So those are the things why companies struggle with security, right? So one of the main problems what we see is security, IT security specialists are not there, right? It is very difficult to find a good quality security professional out there. Uh, it is quite difficult to, if someone comes for an interview, it takes very difficult to understand whether he's good at his job or not, right? It has a huge impact. It has a huge impact, and it it is the main reason is people are not good at it. Is people don't know what to study. At the same time, technology landscape is changing so fast, right? We saw a couple of years back, Jenkins was everyone was using Jenkins for CI/CD pipeline, and people moved away from Jenkins to GitLabs, and then again GitLabs it is reached kind of thing, and then it's now people are moving towards Azure pipeline and things like that. So by the time you get specialized in one thing, it's already shifting to another technology. And now invent of AI, people are asking how can we use AI in our doing our activities and things. It becomes right. your organization AI integration to the web applications, it is become so high, right? A lot of your apps that is you're dealing out there may be running on AI without your knowledge in the background. So how do you provide that kind of a security, right? So it takes a lot of effort, a lot of security is continuously improving out there. From a pen tester point of view, it is even more difficult, right? From an hacker perspective, the main reason is a security team personnel in an organization, he has a set of technologies he's working. Even for 6 months or 1 year, that is not going to change. But for a pen tester, security auditor like me, it changes every week. So this week I'm testing a PHP application. Next week I'm testing a Java application. After that, Python, .NET, and keeps on changing. And the network is changing constantly. The process is changing. So it is difficult to gain. So that is main reason for security staffing is so difficult to gain. So it is constantly changing. The job market, it is constantly is expected to grow, right? It is we're expecting by 2026 to reach $270 billion, $70 billion, and yet 70% of organizations say they have a worker shortage, right? And this is very much true, right? Number of job openings for is going to be limited compared to any other. If you take a developer uh, roles or anything, it will be number of openings will be more for than security. But securities are something they're finding it difficult to fill, right? You can fill up your developers within couple of days, within 10 days, 15 days, you'll get someone out there, but you will never get, right? Yeah, I've seen that struggle. There are cases for a to replace someone, it has taken me months to get someone out there, right? Even though the person has given a 90 days notice period, we'd have got about 150, almost 180 days to fill that position up. So it is a very difficult, right? Number of attacks have increased. We need more people, more projects are coming in, right? And suddenly there's a requirement for compliance, right? Why there's a shoot up in the market, right? Why all of a sudden, last 3 to 4 years, everyone is looking at security. The main reason is compliance. There's something called as an ISO 27K, PCI DSS, NIST, and CIS benchmarks. Whenever you're doing a business, if you're doing a financial business action out there, let's say you're storing credit card information, there's a minimum amount of security that you're supposed to provide. Not only that, you are by law required to get pen tested, meaning there should be a security audit from a pen testing perspective to tell that your websites or applications are safe out there. And that is the requirement. There's a huge requirement, right? And sometimes what happens is that, like, I used to get a lot of calls from companies. Okay, we are trying to sell our product to our one of the clients, but client is not sure whether our product is secure or not. Can you test our application, right? And there is something they want to sign the contract in a couple of days, and they want it to be done out. So those are the things that comes up, right? Previously, no one used to take security. The reason why organizations, unfortunately, I have seen, right, is they give more importance to security because there is a financial gain involved out there. They cannot do business out there. Only after that, right? So the organization used to tell, try to do it, and they kept on postponing it. But once they told, okay, fine, that is when they took it seriously, right? So different job openings are there. In penetration testers for infra is different. Application pen testers, meaning someone who's pen testing websites that are there. SOC analysts are also there, right? SOC basically pen testers, when you're checking a network is good or not, comes under you know penetration testing system and network. Application website is good. These logs are generated by applications and devices in the net. Sorry, that analysis of log happens in SOC. Okay, based on that they can tell out there. Security engineers are going to be there. Someone who implement and tune firewall, IDPs, admin rights. So meaning firewall engineers predominantly. There'll be certain appliances, right? IDPS, IPS, firewall, WAF is going to be there. That is going to be there. So again, there's a forensic analyst and investigator. If there's a cyber crime, they collect information just like a forensics. Whenever there's a murder, they'll collect blood spatter and things, right? You might have seen Dexter, whenever movie sees in that. So similar thing can happen for a, cyber crime as well. Right? There is a certain set of things that has to be taken care for that. In hunter or incident responder, so it will talk about these people are, they design. It's usually large organization roles. Well, everyone is running around shouting this system that you have the sense and the skill to rationally figure out why. Right? So they will figure out what is happening out there. They'll pinpoint, okay, the attack is coming from this network. Let's take this network out of it. Then probably we can do that. So, for instance, when WannaCry hit in one of the larger medical devices companies in India, it took about couple of 2 hours for 50% of the network devices in the network to be infected by the ransomware. By that time, that in the they were other team which are working to isolate that, they protected that other network 50% of them, removed it from the network so that the virus does not spread, and then they were able to overcome that situation of them. Right, that is how they did. Secure software development management, basically we're talking about uh, someone who is helping the software developers to identify bugs at the coding level itself. Right. So malware analysts and reverse engineers, predominantly they work on email level. Whenever there is any attachment that comes in, some device, some appliance will tell there's a malicious may be present out there, right? So they will take that and try to analyze what is there. It is actually exactly a file or something else. They'll do that action out there. So that's how it will work. And finally is the directors, chief information security officers, who are going to be responsible for the organization security. Okay, that is how it will work out. The one that comes into play nowadays, which is significantly gaining, is DevSecOps, right? DevSecOps engineers, even after it is introduction as a role, it has massively changed. We are seeing a lot of DevOps roles getting converted to DevSecOps, uh, and it is also getting penetration testing is also getting added to that part, right? And the future will go. There will be much more consolidation. They will have internal engineers, security engineers, security software development managers are going to be part of DevSecOps teams. Application testers will part of DevSecOps teams. Penetration testers for system and network will part of DevSecOps teams. That's going to be there, right? And everything is going to be automated nowadays, right? Every server implementation, every day that is has to be occur out there. For a single application, amount of pipelines we write is more, right? And normal engineer may work on 3 to 4 projects, not more than that. More than that, if they tell they work on 78, they are clearly lying, or they are extremely gifted. Okay, it is not easy to work more than three projects is a quite a limitation. More than that, it's quite. So that is how usually organizations will have that kind of an action out there. But DevSecOps is clearly looking at in better packages in VC, the job market. We literally have seen the previously, whereas I come from a security auditor where I work on testing an application every week. There's a different application because every week the company is changing. We checks, test the application, send them a report, and move on with them. But organization will have their own internal pen testers, right? They test that application before it reaches us in most of the cases, and they identify most of the vulnerabilities out there, right? But these internal pen testers are moving out, meaning they are continuing to hold on to them, but they're asking them to take up other roles like threat modeling on DevSecOps roles as well. Right? So we are seeing significant increase in salary packages out there, and penetration alone no longer supports that kind of an action, right? We're looking at DevSecOps, and the you have to look at the technologies in DevSecOps that will make more sense for you, the current situation. Okay. So skill shortages is going to be there, right? About 3 unfilled position by 2026. 32% of security managers say it takes 6 months or more to find a qualified candidate for the open position. And that is true. Right? Is if you will get a lot of people out there, right? But it you will lot of our students who are going for interview rounds and see they directly be interviewed by top tier see chief technical officers are involved, CEOs are involved whenever doing interviews and things in a small and medium sized organization, especially because that is how important this particular role is, especially nowadays, right? So any questions, guys? So we'll conclude here.